night. How are you? Good. All right, that sounds good. My name is Jason Pasco. I run the theater program here at LCCC, and I want to tell you a little bit about what we're going to do tonight. We are very excited to do it tonight. We're going to do a stage reading of a play, a workshop production. And the playwright is here. His name is Nick Wood. So, employee of LCCC, he is HVAC, he is electrical, he is many things, he is a jack of all trades. He's also a Navy vet, and that was actually part of what inspired him to do and to create what you're going to see tonight. A stage reading, a workshop production. What is a stage reading, a workshop production, you might ask? It's a way of doing a play without going all the way, right? So you're going to see actors with scripts in their hands, minimal costumes, a minimal set, although a very nice bar. We're very, very happy about that. A way of doing a play that keeps the focus on the text. Nick wrote this thing. He came to me about a year ago and well, made it his mission to collect stories from vets, from service members, from Vietnam all the way to Iraq and Afghanistan. Took these stories. Most of what you're going to hear is essentially verbatim. They are essentially interviews. Some names have been changed to maintain the, to protect the innocent, perhaps, or whatever we want to say. But we're very happy and excited to do this. He came to me, wrote this thing. I said, well, let's take it out for a spin. So I'm kind of proud. I'm very proud of you. So thank you very much. Team of actors together, got a stage manager, and that's really just about all it takes. Kind of a reminder, right? Not an excuse to vote no in November, I might say, but a way of doing a play that's a way of reminding us that here's what it takes, right? We need a script, we need some actors, and we need an audience. And that's what we got tonight. Okay? So, without further ado, Nick Wood's Letters from the Front. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tanker Bay Bar here in downtown Shakopee, Minnesota. Thanks for joining us tonight. Our town was named after the Chief Dakota Mdewakan Sioux Shakopee. They lived here for many years, and the federal government decided it wanted to take some of their land and have them sign a treaty. They obliged in exchange for food and other promises. And after that, they were constantly cheated and lied to. In August 1862, with tension in the air, some shots were fired, and this started the Dakota War. 2 full Dakota tribes were involved, and many bands. In December, it was over. More than 800 settlers had been killed. They convicted 300 natives to hang. But President Lincoln lowered that number, so on December 26, 1862, 38 Dakota members were hung in unison, making it the largest federal execution to this day. So this is an area that produces warriors. Pride and honor for our country is everywhere. We have Veterans Park, which is a big city park on the river with lots of memorials listing local soldiers lost from wars over the years. The neighbors are still proud to have a flag in the front of their house to support the troops magnet on the car. For the 4th of July and Memorial Day, we have a parade through town with local VFW places an American flag at the headstone of every deceased veteran. As a bartender, I hear lots of stories. Some are not so great, others are damn good. A lot of times it's just a guy needing to vent about something, get something off his chest. Maybe his wife got pissed about something, the kids screwed up, maybe the in-laws are moving back in town. Just words, just to make the guy feel better. He'll be over it in a day or two. But the real ones are the war stories. See, people deal with this kind of thing differently. Some want to talk about it, makes them feel better. Others, they hold it in. because they don't want to relive it. By the way, there's a lack of true stories from first-hand accounts. Sometimes you can live with someone your entire life and never hear them speak a word about what they encountered or what they dealt with. And it's sad for the friend or the family member because nobody really knows or learns from the veteran's experiences. I've had a few people that I always talk to about these things. And these talking sessions maybe made it a little easier for them to deal with things. So the guys I've asked to speak to you tonight are going to tell you some stories, some good, some bad, but just accounts of what the military is about for an enlisted guy. And I hope you can try to understand some of what they live with. Now I'm going to start out with the story of a guy named Ron Peterson. Ron's not native to here. He grew up in South Dakota, Rapid City. And for years, Ron had been the commander of the local VFW Post 4046 here in Shakopee. And their goal was to help veterans transition when they came back home. They helped kids with scholarships, mostly by hosting the annual fish fry for Lent to raise money. And they were the Honor Guard. The Honor Guard is an all-volunteer force that marches in parades, and more importantly, they're the ones that perform the funerals, do the gun salutes, fold the flag, and finishing off the ceremony by handing that flag to the next of kin. I actually enlisted. I headed off to the Marines about 3 weeks later. To be honest, I wanted to know what it was like to be shot at and what it was like to shoot at someone. I'd been accepted to some colleges, and all my brothers were doing their thing in college, so I decided that this was going to be my thing. See, back then, if you were in college and you had good grades, there was an exemption from the draft. But I felt very patriotic about my country, so this is what I chose. I survived boot camp and became an infantryman. I was 18 at the time. The year was 1968, and I was sent to Vietnam. Spent a lot of time just hanging out when we first got there. It was pretty boring. I wanted to serve. I wanted to see some action. I was not seeing any of it. And this went on for about 2 months. And that's when we got the call. The powers that be wanted us to head out, run a loop, and report anything that we saw. I was happy then. So the next morning we head out and we aim north. Our mission was to report any unusual activity by the VC and not be seen. And we failed both. 2 days into it, we come across some bad guys, and they started shooting first. Of course, we shoot back. They got 3 of my buddies before we got them, 8 in all. Goddamn sons of bitches who just walked away, but they didn't, and taught them a lesson I'll never forget. Now, in war, what they try to do is get you to dehumanize the opponent. Try to make sure that we call them gooks. And I never really fell for that. Because I couldn't help but think who their parents were and what their girlfriend was like. And to me, they were just people standing up for their country, just like me. So we head out, and we come across this girl. The girl is with child, and it seems like she's gone into labor. So we try to comfort her, and our medic asks if we'll give up our fruit and our chocolate from our rations. Well, no way in hell any GI is going to do that. That's gold to us. But we understand what's going on, so most of us volunteer our gold for the girl. She gives birth to a baby girl. We all stand back, we feel a sense of pride for a few minutes, then Mama shows up, and she got real mad, called us bastards and everything else she could think of until she saw all the stuff that we offered up to the mother. And that settled her. It was good. 10 days later was a turning point in my life. We stumbled on about 30 VC, and they had some of our guys prisoners. Now, we're not going to take this shit lying down, so we formed an ambush to hell with the orders. When the attack began, we had the high ground, and we threw them into a panic. We were running every which way, making it easy pickings. Our guys that they held managed to get away free and clear, but the bad guys regrouped. They flanked us, and that's when I was shot twice. One in the leg, one in the back. Firefight lasted another 20 minutes before we sent them running. They dragged me out and radioed for help, mostly because there were others in the same shape as me. The Hueys came in, took us out of there, got us to medical, fixed me up. I was going home. I still felt it was my duty to serve my country. After the opportunity given to me, it felt like it was the least I could do. I have been spit on and told that I was a baby killer, even though I helped deliver. Told I was garbage when I got home. It's a little hard to adjust. I wanted to help people understand that I was not a bad guy, just doing what was asked of me. So I decided to become a teacher. I headed off to the University of Minnesota. I majored in English. For some reason, I was drawn to that subject. I was hired to teach high school in Shakopee, Minnesota, and I continued there for 40 years. Don't talk too much about my service. But I hope I instilled my views of how great this country is, and even to this day, I have a flag in my yard. I had some students find out about my past and inquired me, and they asked me about it, and I always told them the truth. Not ashamed of what I'd done, just answering the call. And I could tell that some of them thought highly of me. And then, 9/11. A lot of my students were talking about joining up, getting revenge. Some of them asked me what I thought, and I said, honestly, this is a hell of a better reason to go to war than I had, and I volunteered then. If they take me now, do it all over again. So Ron went on to do great things, never taking full credit for these accomplishments. He would stay late or come in on weekends if he needed, just to help the students out that were struggling. And he helped out too by being an assistant coach for football and wrestling. His students were his passion. He enjoyed seeing them succeed, both in school and in their lives afterwards. He was a well-respected member of the community. And every year you'd see him marching in the parades with the color guard, and he was always the one holding the flag. Seeing everyone stand up and salute the flag as they marched was really a sight to see, gave me goosebumps. Every year at the VFW Fish Fry, he would greet everyone as they walked through the door, thanking them for supporting the club. Ron died 2 years ago, but he left a tremendous impression on our town. He helped create a place where you understood that anything is possible. He was buried in the Veterans Cemetery at Fort Snelling, and his own color guard did the ceremony. There were hundreds of his former students and his friends present. John Schmidt was one of those students. And after talking to Ron one day, he started thinking of the military. Just a conversation. But it showed him that he had options. Pick your own path through life.
I joined the Navy in October 1990, just before the Gulf War started. Now, my dad and grandpa had been Navy guys, but that's not the real reason I picked that branch. I wanted to see the world firsthand, to experience how other people lived, and mostly, I wanted to get the hell out of here. I remember asking my dad if he would pay for a class at the local community college, and he said, hell no. I did not have the best track record with school. So I went about going to work every day and wondering if this is my future. About 2 months later, my best friend from up the street comes down and says, we should go and join the Navy. Now, I thought about this for maybe 10 seconds. I remembered my conversation with Mr. Peterson a couple of years ago and replied, okay. We went down and did the testing and all the other stuff, and then headed off to boot camp. There was a third guy that was also going in with us, but after doing all the work, his girlfriend talked him into staying. Hell, I don't even remember his name now. Funny how that works. So off I go to Orlando, Florida. Actually, the first time I had ever been on an airplane. We're all herded up at the airport and bused to the base. Now when we get there, I remember getting yelled at and having to stand in this line and not move. They inventoried us or something, and after a while they brought us into a barracks and told us to get some sleep. Of course, sleep means in 2 hours, the big guy called company commander is going to throw a garbage can across the room and be yelling as loud and for as long as he can. Get on the fucking line! He yells over and over. There's this bewilderment among everyone because nobody knows what the hell that means. He takes a second, points to the blue line, and everyone stands on it. Lines must be important here. Welcome to the Navy, we are told. You are now mine. He goes on to say, I don't give a shit where you came from, who your parents are, you will do everything I say. This is where we learn to reply, Yes, sir. After everything. And for some, it was harder than others. But after much intense personal therapy, they understood. My family was very proud of me joining. And I think they were mostly happy that I chose a direction to go, wherever it may have been. They just wanted me to figure things out on my own.
Another one that was influenced was Kyle Miller. Kyle was never in one of Ron's classes, but he played football. Coach Ron instilled in him that you should push yourself to see what you're made of. Never accept mediocrity, and know that you are what you make of yourself. Ron told Kyle that he should find his inner strength and push it. Kyle felt proud that someone believed in him, and this made him work harder. Every young person has a moment where they need to find themselves. You just never know if they'll remember the words.
I graduated high school in 2000. I was hanging out with my friends, drinking beer, having a good time, like any other kid. When I woke up one morning and asked myself if this is really what I wanted to do the rest of my life. I had a best friend who was joining the Army and wanted me to meet up this recruiter at a Pizza Hut. They told me all about it and this sounded great. I went home and told my parents that I was thinking of joining the Army, and the look of accomplishment and happiness on my parents' faces told me that I had to join, regardless if I wanted to or not. I had to, because I had not seen that happiness on their faces in a long time. My friend and I were going on this buddy system. We were told we would get an extra rank by doing this, so we signed up. We went to the MEP station where they enlist you. They put us up in a nice hotel, gave us vouchers and stuff while they processed us, and this takes a couple of days. So we went back to the hotel after the first day and just hanging out. The next day we showed up to do one final physical, and one of the things they asked us is, do you have any tattoos? My friend showed them that he had one on his calf, a U.S. Army one, and it was fresh, like a couple days old. He never even told me about it. They told me he had to go home and let it heal, and then come back and swear in. But I was good to go. Later, when I was in boot camp, I found out that he never went back. So I went into the Army on the buddy system without a buddy. That was November 1st, 2000.
Coach Ron did a good job helping kids see their potential. One of the best wrestlers he ever coached was a kid named Brett. Now, Brett won state his sophomore year, damn good wrestler. But after that, started hanging around with the wrong crowd, getting himself into trouble. Had a chip on his shoulder that needed mending, but he wasn't hearing any of it. Coach Ron tried to get Brett to understand, tried real hard to mentor him, but nothing took hold. Brett got himself into trouble and ended up leaving school halfway through junior year. Mr. Peterson took this hard and thought about it often, things he could have done to help the kid. All was better when Brett returned to town a few years later, proudly wearing a uniform. And he stopped into the old school to see Mr. Peterson and to thank him for trying to sort him out. In a way, they both learned something, and a very long friendship ensued.
I was a troubled youth. I was a big fighter and would go out with my, I guess you could call them friends at the time, and start fights for fun. We also did some stealing, convenient store mainly. I always felt like an outcast, and these guys made me feel accepted for what I was. I had been arrested multiple times, and they always seemed to blame me for their being caught. After being to court for the third time, I was sent to juvenile prison in Stillwater, Minnesota, which is right next door to the Maximum Security Prison, and I was in a program called Scared Straight. It was supposed to teach you where your life was headed if you kept up this outlaw gig. But I was too damn stubborn, I didn't budge. I did my time, got out, continued where I had left off. Hell, my friends even picked me up that night. After being sent to prison a second time, the district attorney suggested they give me an option to either serve my time in prison or to join the military and keep my nose clean. I guess it was a win for them to get rid of me. But when I think back, I thank that district attorney. He may have known, he may have not, but he shaped my life. I accepted the military choice and went down to the MEPS to enlist. It was the best decision I could have made because I hated that damn prison. I chose the Air Force because my father had served 20 years and it was good enough for him, so I thought it'd be a good choice for me. That was the week that I grew up.
Another tough kid was Colt Williams. Now, Colt, short for Colton, started off on the wrong foot too, but Ron helped him straighten up. Colt was in Ron's English class and was truant more often than not. He'd be off with friends, smoking cigarettes behind the school, or hanging out at the bowling alley down the street during class. And Ron knew what was up. So one day, Ron paid a little visit to the bowling alley that changed Colt's life. Colt and his friends were playing pinball down there when Ron showed up, and it shocked the hell out of all of them. Colt's friends took off, all except for one, Jim. Now, Jim and Colt had been friends for a while. Whatever Colt did, Jim did, and they both froze. Ron starts saying how they missed him in class and they can't continue without him. He also tells them that they're a little bit better off than the deadbeats who just ran off. Colt and Jim feel kind of stupid for just being caught and agree to go back to class. And this is a decision that will change both of their lives forever. It's the start of them thinking about their future and others and not just themselves. Colt and Jim agree to do the right thing, get on the right track.
I was working at a drywall company. Now the company was starting to go over, so they gave us a little bit of warning, telling us that we were going to be laid off and to go find a new job. I was unsure at first because I'd always sort of been secure in everything I did, always taken care of. But this time, it was different. I was thrown to the wolves. I had a family at the time and I didn't know what to do. I remember what Ron always told me about thinking more than yourself, about taking charge of the situation, about being a man to be proud of. At the time, I was married. First child was going to be born in a week. I was jobless, depressed. I looked at my options and decided to join the military because of the insurance for my family. It was one of the first selfless decisions I ever made. I was talking to my friend Jim from high school, and he was in the same situation as me. He said he was thinking about joining also and suggested that we go in together. Now, the only choice I had to make was what branch. I had heard stories from my family and remembered some that included my grandfather, so I decided to call him. He had been a paratrooper in the Army. In fact, he had one of the most interesting stories. I never knew, but he was one of the first to descend in Korea during the war. I decided then and there that I wanted to do that. Follow in his footsteps. To make my family proud like he had, I chose to be an Army paratrooper.
The last guy that I asked to tell his story is Tom O'Leary. Tom was an outstanding football player and an excellent English student. He was always talking to Ron about going off to college and majoring in English, just like Ron had. That's how much of an impact Ron had on his life. You often see them on the sidelines during football games talking about what books they had read from the New York Times bestseller list. Yeah, they really dissect those books and leave everyone twisting their head trying to understand what the hell they were talking about. But Tom came from a very strict family, wanted their children's lives structured, with everything planned. Tom was a bit of a rebellious kid, and the more you pushed him, the more he pushed back. He was good for getting himself into a jam just to prove something, even though maybe that wasn't his original intention.
So my parents paid for my brother's entire tuition, $147,000. Became a pilot for United Airlines. Now, I was leaning towards something different. My family had a tradition of going to the University of Minnesota for all their schooling. But now, I sort of bucked that bottom by going to Mankato State. I want to cut my own path through life, and I never liked the idea of a hand. A year into it, my dad says he wanted me to join the Air Guard. I'm becoming an officer. His buddy would take care of me and would be a piece of cake. I resisted and said that's not what I want. He pushed back and said, I'm paying your tuition. You're going to do as I say. I told him I'd quit and I
did. Now, my grandfather was a Marine from 1941 to 1944, with combat the entire time. I told my dad I wanted to be a Marine. He said, "No, you're not. Let's take a drive." We drove to the nearest Marine base, and he showed me the shitty conditions that the officers lived in. Next, we went to the Air Force Base and saw the much better housing for the lowly enlisted personnel. He says your grandpa did enough killing for this country. You need to take it a bit easier. I asked about the Coast Guard, and we both had to laugh. I agreed to go in the Air Force, but I still wanted more action. I went to the MEP Center and ended up going to the Army Recruiting Center in the hall. But for some reason, they were all gone when we returned that day. I found the Marine recruiter, and they had 2 lowly enlisted helpers and the recruiter's assistants, and there was nobody there to actually get me in. So I had no choice but to walk down the hall to the Air Force recruiter if I wanted in today. They gave me job choices, and I thought this one picture looked pretty cool. It was a pararescue. Until they found out I couldn't swim that well, then I picked another job. The Coast Guard guy holding a machine gun, and a grenade launcher was strapped to his back. That looks cool, they say. They say that's security forces. I say if I can shoot that stuff, it's fine with me. Next thing I know, I'm in Texas looking at black flag orders, which means it's too damn hot to do anything. And that was July 7th, 1999.
We were some of the first boots to hit the ground after the invasion of Kuwait by Iraq. We had been given all these mysterious immunizations for anthrax and many other possible threats. What they exactly gave us was never known. We had spent countless hours training with chem suits and gas masks, and I believe we were ready. I was wrong. Nothing can prepare you for the horrors of war. And man, these Iraqis sure must have really hated the Kuwait guys. When we landed, we went straight for the Kuwait Towers. These are 3 towers that end up in a point in the sky, 614 feet in the air. They were built for water storage and are a natural symbol of Kuwait, located on the shores of the Persian Gulf. When the Iraqis invaded Kuwait, they bound all the senior officers from the Kuwait Army and took them for a helicopter ride. When they got a little higher than the towers, they started pushing these guys with hopes of skewering them at the tower points. The grounds underneath were piled with rotting dead bodies. A short distance away was a wall filled with bullet holes. Here they would line military men up and execute them, and tie a row, then order another row in and repeat the process. The highway connecting Kuwait City to Iraq was the only way out for the Iraqis when they withdrew. It is here that the Canadians and the Americans were able to cut them off and take care of them. It is now known as the Highway of Death. After seeing all this savagery, I don't feel bad about the Tomahawk missiles and the endless 5-inch shells we lobbed into Iraq. I hope we got a little even as we rained hell onto them for what they did. It was a senseless invasion driven only by greed, but most back home are for some reason convinced it was all done for oil. They never did see what I saw, and I hope they never have to. But it might help them understand just a little bit better why we stand up for our allies. A handshake is a handshake.
We were a platoon of M1 Abram tanks and have been doing patrols by the outskirts of the Baghdad airport for 6 months so far. This place sucks. Hot and cold, windy, dusty. My original gunner, Mitch, who had until now made it all the way through this deployment, was not feeling well. We later found out that he had dysentery and he got evac out. I was the senior driver in the whole platoon, and I had simulator training under my belt, so they put me in as the gunner. It was nighttime, pretty still and quiet. We've been out for 3 days now and scanning my sector, all excited to be a new gunner. Suddenly I had a target come across my area. I checked again, and I checked a 3rd time. Then I woke up my supervisor who was sleeping. I told him, I think we have an enemy tank in our sector. He says, I don't know what the hell you're talking about, but that does look like an enemy tank. We woke up the rest of the guys and started getting ready. We went through a scenario, made sure everything was good, and that the tank was fired up and all ready to go. We didn't want any mistakes. You could feel the tension and seriousness in the air. I tracked him, had a 1181 meters to the target, we made a final check, and we engaged. Night vision blacked out, came back on a couple seconds later, and we saw fire and smoke coming out of the enemy turret. We waited to make sure there were no others, and after a while, another tank from our platoon went out and confirmed the kill. I was told that most tankers go their entire career without even engaging an enemy tank, so I was pretty excited.
Dear sweetie, at work yesterday, the entire squadron was told to assemble in the carpenter shop. We all thought that we were in trouble for something, and even after we were there, they still didn't say anything. They listed off about 30 names, and I was one of them. We were told that we had an hour to get home, pack up all our shit, kiss the family goodbye, and get back here. Everyone they did call was forced to stay sitting there until all of us got back. I know I ransacked the house, so I was rushing to get everything together. I wish you and the kids were there so I could say goodbye in person. Although at this point we all thought it was a drill. Anyway, we got back and the C-130s were on the tarmac with the props running. They out-processed us damn quick and told us to get our bags on, get in, and sit the hell down. And we took off expecting just to circle around and come back, but we didn't. After we were up there in the air, they told us we were going to Albania. Refugees were fleeing the country by the thousands and their government was slaughtering them. We landed here this morning and started setting up tents as quick as we could. About an hour and a half later, the refugees started coming over the hill. Thousands. We started checking them in, feeding them, making sure they had a bed, while others were continuing to set up the tents. I'm not sure how long I'll be here, but I guess it's not a drone now. I'm going to have to hold down the fort there in Germany until I come back. Explain to the kids what's going on. We should be getting this soon because they said they put it on the next one. Love and miss you, baby. Tell the kids I love them and hope to be home soon. Amen.
The convoy of trucks was headed north out of Baghdad, and we had about 150 clicks to go. Josh and I were riding shotgun, and Lisa was driving. Now, women were never really officially supposed to be in combat, but they were. Some of the women I served with are damn good shots and almost fearless. Most of these women were convoy drivers, and they were in armed enemy territory, so you make up your mind. The going was slow, and we were in the second truck out of 12. It was in the middle of the day, and there were reports of IEDs buried in the road. We kept going. You never wanted to stop and open yourself up to an ambush. So we were probably 60 clicks out of Baghdad when the lead truck hit an IED. It crippled the truck, blocked the road. We saw some trucks headed our way across the desert, and we ran to make sure everyone in the lead truck was all right. We got them out and in our truck when the shooting started. The enemy was firing, and we were firing back. Lisa grabs her gun, clicks to full auto, and goes off the road driving while firing away at these guys. It was damn cool to see. It was a true Rambo moment. Nobody was hurt that day, and I'm pretty sure we got some of them. But we held them off, and they left. 2 days later, we found ourselves in an R&R in a safe zone. It was an MWR tent. This stands for Morale, Recreation, and Welfare. It's a place to relax and unwind. Now they have games, TV, and nice beds to sleep in. They also have booths that you can video conference with people from back home, and a lot of guys take advantage of this. Now, Josh and I were just hanging out and watching some football on the big TV and just bullshitting about some things, mostly about back home. He was from Mankato, Minnesota, not too far from where I was, so we got along well. We could relate. Josh decided it was a good time back home for him to give his wife a call. So he headed off to the MWR tent. There were quite a few people there that weekend, everyone just chilling and having a good time. Right about then is when the enemy took fire. The sirens went off, and we all took cover. This went on for about 15 minutes until it was all clear again and we could resume our doing nothing. Josh never came out of that tent, so I went on to check him. Josh was doing a video phone call with his wife, and a bullet went through the tent and hit him in the neck. His wife watched the entire thing as he bled out and died. The camera was live for 15 minutes before we were able to cut power and end the call.
So we were having this problem with the bad guys dropping grenades into Humvees from overhead, and quite a few Army guys had already died from this. Later on, because of all the problems, they would have to fully enclose the top of the turret area to protect the guys. But for now, we're not blessed with this option. There's only an armored plate around the gun. We were the 786 Air Force Security Forces. We volunteered whenever the Army was short manned. We represented our colors proudly, and whatever we did it for a flag. We had jumped into northern Iraq into Mashara Airfield in 2003, becoming the first of the Air Force to jump into combat since the Vietnam War. We meant business. The weather was good, and we were going with a convoy from Camp Victory. My truck was in the lead. I was manning the 240 Bravo machine gun on the turret in the 12 o'clock position, which ran about 700 rounds a minute. On my right at 4 o'clock, I had a 249 light machine gun attachment on my turret. I could just smell that dust in the air. We headed up Route Irish, and after a bit, I saw a guy on the overpass. I yelled for us to push left, and we did, and so did he. I yelled out there was a possible head. This is when I saw him reach down into a duffel bag, and for something I yelled out grenade. That's when I unloaded on with a 240, at least 25 rounds. I could see the dust pockets of the rounds hitting the wall, and crap was just raining down. His arms flailed up, and I saw him drop something right before he flew back. Then a brick hit the roadway right in front of us. Fucking brick. We went another kilometer, and we stopped to check the trucks out. We did this every so often when we knew we were in a safe area. Everyone was coming up to me and asking me what happened, and I just had to explain multiple times. Later, we found out that Route Irish was getting hit with a lot of grenades, RPGs, IEDs. And we think that they were just sending these guys out there, either offering them money or threatening to kill their families the whole entire time, and reassuring them that they wouldn't do anything to them. They wanted us to see what we would do so that they could plan better. I'm 100% certain he didn't survive. And, we just don't waste our time to stop in these situations. We just have to keep going. This was the first time I killed a guy. It just really doesn't bother me. I did what needed to be done. I don't think about it that much.
The place on a ship where you sleep is called a berthing. Certainly, the word cannot describe how fancy it is. This particular one that I was in held 54 sailors and constantly smelled like feet and ass. Bunks 3 high, and each had the measurements of a coffin, but with the added bonus of this coffin having a lift-up floor and about 6 inches deep that held everything you own, all your possessions. My bunk was the very bottom. Now, it wasn't all that bad because each bunk had a light and a thin curtain. It's the little things that make it feel like home. The left side of the bed had a 2-foot hallway that separated you from the other set of bunks. Now, on the other side was a thin wall of the exterior of the ship. See, now we were a guided missile cruiser, which means we were very light and very fast. Very little armor. Unlike a heavier and slower ship, let's say a battleship or destroyer, some of these have armor 2 feet thick like a tank. Depends on what it's built to do. Ours was thin, about 2 inches, and this is what my right shoulder rubbed against when I slept. I could actually hear the water passing against it. And when they shot the big guns, it would shake throughout the ship. This might be all right for some, sort of like a white noise, but then you learn that we are 2 stories below the waterline. The only way out is a ladder going straight up with those hatches with wheels on it at the top, only big enough for 1 man to get through at a time. You might have seen these in the movies. This spins closed and seals everything. This was the only way out. Now, you add that over by Iran, there are 2-man speedboats everywhere, one driving and one aiming a Stinger missile at your ship. Also, there are plenty of mines in the water. Makes your ass pucker just a bit, doesn't it? After thinking all of this, at that point, I just decided if we got hit and we were taking on water, rather than trying to beat everyone up, getting up that ladder and out of this hellhole, I was content to die. I would rather not panic and give others a chance. It is the choice I think most people would make in a situation where death can come. And it was the only way I could really get any sleep. Just accept it, and it will all work out just fine.
There was this guy named Parker in the platoon. He was quite the funny guy. He was one of those guys who was always pulling the gags, and on the other guys, always the clown. He had this sheet that he would walk around with. Now this sheet had a hole in it. And Parker had used a Sharpie marker and drew hair around this hole. He always referred to it as his glory hole. And he would run around naked with his unit in the hole. He just yelled and hollered. Parker was quite the guy. Loved making other guys laugh. Really enjoyed putting on a show for kicks, and everyone did laugh. Mostly at him. He's one of the fellas that had the ability to just boost morale and help you forget the shit place you were in. He died a week later from an IED.
The road had been destroyed, so the gun trucks we had couldn't maneuver around because of the mine roller on the front. We had to hoof it about a mile downhill to inspect the bridge that connected the mountains over the villages in the valley. Now, we walked across the bridge and got under the other side, looking at the trusses and the foundation. There were 6 of us. We went back up onto the bridge and were walking to the backside when we heard a whoosh noise. I yelled, and we all started running across the bridge as fast as our legs would take us to get the hell out of there. We were Air Force Engineering, and we were in charge of doing inspections on the road so that the local contractors could get paid here in Afghanistan. We would set up the contracts and pay them in cash when it was all completed. I was the one who would sign off on the projects and deliver the cash. Now, as you can imagine, Afghanistan is a pretty corrupt place. The Taliban knew who was doing the work and would threaten to kill their family if they didn't turn over half the money. They left them with just enough to keep working. The Taliban would also force them to turn over information, such as when we would come to do the inspections. That's what happened, right? The rocket grenade hit the road right behind us, skipped, and exploded into the mountains. That's when the shit started. We were running fast as we could, and they opened up. Bullets were hitting all over the road just in front of us, and we kept running. You could see every single round was hitting, leaving a little white mark behind. We got to the trees and started leapfrogging. That's where one guy starts covering and 2 guys get further down the road, and it continues. Now the gun trucks heard all the firing, and Jones said, hell with this. He ran his truck into the hole up the other side, ripping the mine roller off in the process. He gets down to us, but the action's too hot to open the door. So 3 of our guys jump on the hood and ride it all the way, firing the entire time. Me and the two other guys are leapfrogging, taking heavy fire. Tommy is running the leapfrog when another rocket grenade gets fired at us. It actually hit him in the loose pant leg, tore off the entire side of his pants, kept going, exploded some distance later, but he just ran faster. When he got back in the trees, he gave us this look like, what the hell happened? How am I still alive? We finally made it back, and everyone else they were still in a heavy firefight. This lasted for about a few hours. We had to call in the bombers to alleviate the stress in the area. That was regulation. But somehow nobody was hurt that day. But we were damn scared. God was with us.
We were just a group of drunk soldiers in Dubai. Nothing unusual. We were on liberty, of course, otherwise it would have been a bad experience for all of us. So we're asking around for a strip bar. Now, none of the locals have any idea what the hell we're talking about. We ask and ask. Finally, we find someone who has some idea what we are talking about. He points us in some direction, and we all aim that way. We pass hookah dens and a lot of guys holding hands walking down the street, which I find out later is just a custom of friendship. Anyway, we finally stumble across this place that the guy was describing. It looks like any other hookah den, and we ask around some more. The locals tell us what we're looking for is up on the 3rd floor. So we all head up like a group of fish, aiming at whichever way the leader points us. We wait for the elevator, and it chimes and opens. We get on and press the 3rd floor button, excited for what we will see. Bong goes the elevator, and we get off. Down a hallway into the first door is our target. We materialize into this very large room with tables and a lot of Arabs sitting around. Up on several raised platforms around these tables are belly dancers with little finger tambourines all doing their thing. We get a little agitated. Someone yells, "Fuck this, let's get out of here." So we head out. Now drinking a bunch kind of fills the bladder, so I had to piss. Now we walk back down the hallway and there's this elevator, the door's open, and one of these big ashtrays, about 2 feet tall. You know the kind. It's filled with sand. So I say to the other guys, "Wait here, I gotta piss. Make sure nobody gets on until I'm done." So they oblige, and I head in there and do my thing into that ashtray. I get done, zip up, turn around, and the elevator's filled with these Arab guys that are just leaving the strip club. And they're all looking at me like I was a spectacle. And the doors are already closed. Well, we all head down to the 1st floor and nobody says anything. Although the elevator now has a horrible pissy smell. The elevator hits the 1st floor and everyone gets off except me. I ride that son of a bitch back up to the 3rd floor where my friends are waiting. "What the hell?" They just laugh. And we get to ride down the pissy elevator again. I'm not sure who got the last laugh on that one, but I giggled a bit also. Next thing, we're at another hotel bar. This is the only place they can sell booze over there, so we're having to mix things and we're looking for a new drink. My buddy Jim and I finally found one at the downtown bar. Let's see here, it's Southern Comfort. Jack. Oh yeah. A splash Coke. We called that one the downtown. Probably tastes like shit today, but damn, that night was awesome.
Got a buddy from Wisconsin, Jimmy. We always called him Johnny Bravo because of the way he looked, what he would wear, and mostly because of his hair. It was always as long as the deployment had been. Now, this day was just like any other over there, with one small difference. We were in Tikrit, Iraq, and we had to head up to Kirkuk, going out on 24 North. And to do this, we had to go through Rashad, and this is where we always knew we were going to get shot at. It was just expected. So we pulled over into Crete to check things out and be ready for the fun and excitement we were going to experience in Rashad. Now Jimmy was running that 50 cal Mont Deuce, and right on top he starts yelling, "Individual, individual, 1 o'clock." We start to step out of the truck, and there's this guy about 20 meters away, sticking out around the corner. loads the gun up, and blasting away at us. All I remember is throwing myself back as fast as I possibly could, feeling stuff hitting my face. I thought I was shot bad, but just ended up with only minor wounds and a big gash on my forehead where a bullet had skinned me. And Jimmy starts hammering away at the 50 cal, but of course this guy's gone. He didn't stick around. Jimmy starts yelling at me, asking if I'm all right. And I say, I guess so, but I believe it. Pissed myself. It's a good thing we were wearing flight suits that day because I was able to zip up the lower part and air myself out. Everything did smell like piss though. That hot sun was bad. I was a bit embarrassed about the whole thing, but still alive. Jimmy later admitted he wanted me to get shot, and I still give a shit about that. And that was July 2006.
Mom, you will never believe what I went through yesterday. On our way to the Persian Gulf once again, we made a small detour. Dad probably experienced it, but I will tell you. We did this thing called Log Day. It's something you do when you cross the equator for the first time. It's real official, and we get a card and everything. It all starts the night before, and they each shop put up a guy that they dress up like a woman for a beauty contest. Stay with me here. And a guy they dress up like a dog for the dog fight. Now the beauty contest winner gets to be the queen, so that means they do not have to go through the whole ritual. And the dogs wrestle with the winner, skipping it right along with the queen. The winners are chosen by the captain in a real formal type of ceremony, and the men and ladies do their best to impress him, all for a good reason. Now for the good part. The next morning you wake up to a loud bell, and they make you wear all your clothes inside out. I happen to be a particular problem child, so my shirt was labeled as SC, which means special case, or extra crappy treatment. Now it's an obstacle course, all around the outside of the ship, and we had to be on our hands and knees the whole time. The shellbacks, or the guys on the other side of the dilemma that had crossed before, had what we call shillelaghs. These are 2-foot chunks of fire hose taped on one end so to make a handle. And with these, they proceeded to slap us. Not hard, but just enough to let us know they were there. We all followed the leader through this course and it was slow going. Hell, even the captain was on his hands and knees with us because he was a walker. And they had me yelling flipper off the side of the ship while someone got a big glob of spaghetti soaked in Tabasco sauce in my hair. Man, that burns the eyes. Another thing was a chicken wing, of course soaked in Tabasco, again, down the crack of my ass. This one really sucked. Don't go grabbing for it or you'll get whooped. Then there were other spots where they would spray us with salt water, probably because it was readily available, and also had us crawling through a tube filled with week-old food from the kitchen. Another one was putting lard in our ears. My hands and knees got pretty raw from the non-skid all around the ship, the stuff that they paint on the deck to help you have traction while walking, and I guess it helped with the kneeling also. When the ending finally came into sight, I saw what we had to do. They had the fattest guy on the ship sitting in a chair. Now he was shirtless and was referred to as King Neptune. What the king did was place an olive in his belly button, then proceeded to cement this with a mixture of lard and coffee grounds. The final test for us wogs was to go up one at a time and suck this olive out and eat it. No hands allowed. It did suck, but man was it worth it. After that, I was allowed to stand after being on all fours for 3 hours. I felt damn proud of what I had just accomplished. Then they told me to throw all my clothes over the side because they were uncleanable, and go to shower. I was more than happy to do this with a big smile. It did suck getting the lard out of the ears though. They said that this is such a big deal in the Navy that it actually goes in your records. Now it will be in mine. I hope you are feeling better.
and I hope to come home soon. I look forward to your letters, and once again, I am being safe over here. Love you guys. John.
Hey, Mom and Dad. All is chill over here in the desert. Not much excitement going on. I know you like the story, so here's a pretty good one. We had 4 trucks, and we were going down this town doing a presence, which means we want them to know we're here. Now, we come across these 2 guys just shooting at each other. They were neighbors, and they had a dispute about something. And just firing away. And that's the crazy stuff they do there. Now, one of our guys tried to cross this black river thing and got stuck. Turns out, this is one of their waste creeks, and it was full of old shit. Anyway, he wanted us to pull him out. First guy pulls up to help him and gets his truck to teeter on the fence. The second guy tries to push him off, and his timing's a bit off. He ends up with the other truck tires pinning his hood, and he can't get free. The third and final guy gets sideways going down this river and gasses it. Well, I happen to be right behind him, and I get covered with shit, and he ends up stuck. Pretty damn embarrassing and stinky. So we waved down this convoy going by something later and quietly asked for help. That's the only way we could have escaped that crap. It took a long time to pose everything once we got on base, and of course we threatened the other convoys to never say a word, or else bad things would happen. All is good now. I can still taste the shit. I hope Brother Paul is doing well in school and is going to graduate on time this spring. I sure would like to be there, but you know how it is. And yes, I'm staying away from the bad areas. You have nothing to worry about. All is good. Love you guys. Kyle.
We're with a group of people for 24 hours a day. There is a camaraderie present. You become brothers, and even if you have a beef with someone, at the end of the day, if they need help, you'll be there. Brothers means being brothers, and this includes teasing and practical jokes. Now, some big college boys in a frat decided to use this mentality in their hazing, when really they just wanted to be mean. They use this camaraderie as an excuse to hurt other people and thereby set up a good jab where everyone laughs it off afterwards. There was a whole crime scene and the public in an outrage wanting all hazing to be outlawed. Thank you, college frat guys. Mommy issues. When a new guy gets to the platoon, he gets assigned responsibilities. Now, most of these are legitimate ones, while others are just some traditional assignments that these guys use to pretty much teach the new guy to use his brain when told to do something. Okay, we're going to call this new guy Smith. Now, Smith arrives and you can still smell the newness of his uniform. Smith is real gung-ho to impress everyone, and he's very excited to be there. What someone in charge will do is ask Smith to help out somehow. This one in charge can be anyone from his supervisor all the way up to an officer. But you see, Smith has set himself up for a prank. Hey, Smith! We're working on a power station and need a fallopian tube and an IUD. We don't have one here, and we need you to help us find a fallopian tube and an IUD. This could be detrimental to the assignment. Now, Smith loves the thought of having this responsibility. He is very eager to impress his superiors and peers. He jumps at the chance to explain how he will find this fallopian tube tube an IUD. And as he leaves, everyone laughs. When Swift gets back to the shop, almost always he is embarrassed. Then he plays it off like he knew all along, and then he waits for the next new guy so he can be on the fun end of the break. But you see, that's the point. No one gets hurt, and we all laugh it off. It helps build character and thinking skills. And this is what camaraderie is.
Hey, babe. Thanks for everything you sent over. We made a makeshift Christmas tree in the corner of our tent. Me and the other guys would put gifts under it as they came in. And the cooks put up a pretty good meal of turkey, stuffing, and all the other things you normally have at a time like this. It wasn't all that bad. After the dinner, me and the other guys went and sang Christmas songs, and afterwards watched the sky light up with tracer and starburst rounds. That's the military version of fireworks. When we got back to the tent, me and the guys sang more songs together and opened up presents one at a time, just like we were at home. It was certainly not as good as being home with you, but it may do in a pinch. It's hard being so far away from you at a time like this, and I hope you and the baby are doing well. Just remember that you are in my heart as we deal with this crap over here. I wish I was there, but Uncle Sam said no. Not just to me, but to everyone I know. Love and kisses. Let my parents know I'm thinking about them also. I love you. Take care, and I'll be with you soon. Your loving soldier, Cole.
Hey, Mom. Hey, Dad. Everything's going fine here, and I'm staying out of harm's way just like you asked. They should turn the air conditioner up a bit, though. Funny thing happened the other day, and I thought you guys might get a kick out of it. We were going to the safety area, so the Army guys tell us to always point your weapons one way to make sure the safety's on, so you don't have an accidental or negligent discharge or blah, blah, blah. We looked at them and said, you guys are stupid, man. We are Air Force and smarter than that. They come back and say, maybe so, but the Army controls this place. They tell us what to do and why, so we follow their rules and head in. They seem like common sense to us, but you know. So we're convoying with this Army group, and one of the drivers heads up, slams on his brakes, and this private kid falls forward, hits his helmet on the Mark 19. He also had the safety on. He hit the butterfly trigger and ka-kunk. This one shell lobs up, landing about 35 meters away from an uploaded A-10 Warthog, and explodes. No damage done, I guess, but this kid sure did feel like an idiot. After that, we were pushing the Army Strong thing for a bit, and both branches started taking jabs at each other. Other than that, nothing else to report. I hope you guys are doing well, and send some snacks from home, please. We just can't get the good stuff around here. I love and miss you. Tom.
A Toyota truck was driving by pretty fast and it grabbed our attention. I saw the gun muzzle stick out of the passenger side window and I saw the flashes. That's when I was flat on the ground. I drew my M4 rifle up and got off some shots, but they were headed away, so nothing hit. I got up and I ran to my buddy who was yelling by this time. He had taken several shots and one had shattered his femur. So I was working on helping him out of the truck, and then they came back around again. We had been doing joint forces securities with the Iraqi police for several weeks, doing checkpoints around Baghdad University, which this day, for some reason, they didn't show up. They had always been there, and things seemed strange to me. Both my senior and platoon surgeons were on R&R at the time, so I was the senior non-commissioned officer on the ground. I notified my commanding officer of the situation. He told me to make the call. I decided we would go ahead with the mission. We set up the trucks, got everything into place, and dismounted. Now doing searches at the checkpoint. It'd be pretty damn boring. We'd been on station for maybe 20 minutes, and my buddy had just finished searching a young lady's bag. That's when we head back to the truck. I just radioed the other stations to see how everything was going and got the all clear. 5 minutes later, that's when the shit started. I was really concentrating on helping my buddy out, and I didn't see the truck come back and firing at us again. Before I could even get up my rifle, I was hit 5 times. The body armor stopped 3 of them, but not 2. Those 2 took out my left wrist, got me in the left hip. The adrenaline was really flowing, so I didn't feel much. I continued to get my friend out and tried to quickly bandage him, then radioed the other stations of how we'd both been hit, needed help, and the Toyota might be headed their way. That's when I realized how bad off I was. Hit me when I saw my blood everywhere. And all we could really do was wait. And when the Toyota got to the next station, our guys were ready for them. My team leader opened up on them with his 240 Brado machine gun, and they were stopped in place, all of them killed. Then they started out to help us. They started a preliminary first aid, and then we were loaded up onto another Humvee and convoyed out to the Medivac outpost. There they bandaged us up and got us on a Black Hawk helicopter and flew us to the Green Zone Hospital in Baghdad. I didn't make it.
Filming of the Black Hawk chopper vibrating my teeth as we passed over the high mountains of the Shanghai Valley. The sun was just coming up and the snow was falling, much different from the 70-degree temps we had just left from. But it would warm up again. It's the valley, it usually does. Welcome to Langmat province in Afghanistan, which is right along the Pakistani border. We descend and are greeted by Captain Young as we exchange salutes and depart the chopper. Today we had to inspect a 2.3-mile section of roadway, so we head into our gun trucks. We usually had a heads up when something was going to happen because we had intercepted the Taliban communications, but today was different. There was no chatter, the radio was silent. The culverts were the main focus. They were about 100 feet above the road, so we would have to leave the gun truck and walk in order to inspect them. Now, the Taliban had a big stronghold here, and small arms fire was pretty common. We almost expected it, but they're pretty bad shots, so it was a normal day at work. My 2 buddies, Hop and Sauce, were with me, and after inspecting several culverts, we head up to the hill and usually inspect another after. Now, everything over there is very steep, so there's a lot of terracing going on. This one was no exception. We had to jump up quite a few of these to get to this particular culvert. On this one, we were getting shot at. Nothing hit. We were almost at the top when it became more serious. I told my buddies Hop and Sauce to get down, and they did not hesitate. They were glad to. I waited on top of the terrace and on top of the wall and made sure we were good to go. Then I heard a whoosh, and I knew what that was. I didn't really have anywhere to go, and by hesitating for just a second, it was too late. The grenade hit the wall I was standing on, threw me off with a tremendous explosion. I somehow fell the 6 feet and landed on my feet, and I felt like my stomach knot up, like I had pulled a muscle or something. The adrenaline was pumping yet once again, and I ran down to meet them thinking of nothing of what just happened. We had to call in the B-1 bombers, and it became a 3-hour fighter fight after that. When the shooting had stopped, we maneuvered back down to our gun trucks and got the hell out of there. We got back to the base and were told to grab some food because we would have to be leaving again in 30 minutes. Shit, I was really looking forward to some sleep. What we didn't know was that they had been surveillance with drones all day 2 Taliban senior members. We wanted our platoon to be the one who fell. My stomach started hurting pretty bad, but I didn't say anything. We got into the gun trucks and headed out, kicked in lots of doors, captured the Taliban members along with notes, books, and lots of other intel. What I did know at the time was that the explosion on the wall had caused my stomach lining to tear, and I had a lot of internal bleeding going on. We were headed back, and we had bad guys with us, but every bump that the truck had made me gassed out and panicky. After arrival and turning over to the Taliban guys, we were walking back to our tent. That's when my stomach ruptured. I had blood coming out of everywhere and passed out. Next thing I know, I'm on a Black Hawk chopper once again, with medical guys telling me it's going to be all right. 10 minutes later, I went into a coma that I never woke up from.
Nipple diffilate. Nipple diffilate, you know? This is the same we use all the time. It means to keep your nipples below the arm. Sniper fire is really bad out here in Baghdad, and you can never see them bastards, so don't take any chance. They're out to get you, and so don't let them, and don't trust them. Johnny Bravo and I were pretty good friends by now. I was senior to him, but we really kicked ass when it came to being a team in the card games. We made some pretty good money in those, but mostly because we had to devise a system of signs to let each other know we were holding. We'd never been caught yet, and that's how good we were at. Then it was October 14, 2006. We were out on patrol with our Humvees, and we stopped just checking things out. This goddamn group of people started to approach our column. We yell at them to get the hell away. They don't listen and continue to head our way. So we yell at them again and hit some slap fire to get their attention. It works for most of them, but not all. This one lady continues to head our way, and we're all screaming at her now. Now, Johnny was the gunner, and he reaches up and over his turret on our plate to tell this lady to get the fuck away. Later, we come to understand that they send people out there to help judge distance. We hear the crack of a gunshot, and now I'm screaming louder at this woman to get the hell away. At the time, I was just worried for her safety. I turn back and see that Johnny has taken a direct hit to the face from sniper fire, and it's ruptured his head, and he was just bleeding everywhere. He was my troop, so I was required to make notification to his family, collect him, box up his gear and personal effects, and send it home with the body. It was such a shit day, and I wish I could take it back. I can never forget that. I'll never forget my buddy, Johnny Bravo. And a month later, I was dead from an IED.
I remember how the cold breeze came in so quickly, like wind off a frozen boat. We had been on a dismounted presence patrol in Tel Afar, Iraq, near the Syrian border, and it had been a fairly mild day until this point. It made me feel uneasy and a bit nervous. Now, Jim, who I had known since high school, never let these things get to him. He always was a high-strung guy who was the funny man of the group, but he was always playing practical jokes on the other guys. We joined up together through the buddy system, which means you both go to boot camp together, supposedly making it easier for the both of you. I guess it sort of did, but it still sucked. Shitty food and even worse living conditions don't really even out that you are joined in it with a friend. But it helped. After that, we ended up being together yet again as we headed to infantryman school, jumped school, then headed over to this hellhole called a country for some reason. I have yet to understand why anyone would live here. Even stranger to me is why we would even want it. But here we are, 3 years later, still giving it hell. We've been over here doing a routine thing now for about 8 months. You always hear mortars going off and lots of sporadic small arms fire. It just grows on you after a while. But today was when all hell broke loose. We had an enemy group firing on us from up in the hills, so we ran for cover, and a firefight ensued. I knew something was up, I told myself. That cold wind was a sign. Jim was next to me, and he started to laugh. He thought it was funny that once again, we were getting shot at. His way of dealing with the situation. Me? I was scared as hell once again. Mortars were hitting all around us. Now, mortar rounds can be set to any of 3 different detonations. There's a proximity setting, which means it explodes above the ground. Impact setting, which explodes on impact. And delay, which it goes off after impact, and boy, it can burn. This day, we were getting hit with delayed rounds. Our group was pretty well spread out, and we needed to get into a better attack position, so Jim and I and 4 others started a flank maneuver to try and cut them off. We were running, but that body armor weighed us down. That damn cold breeze again. We came across a small clearing, and we could still hear all the firing going on. We need to get over this small hill so we can see them. Creeping along on our bellies so not as to be seen, we crested the hill, and we engaged the enemy. Jim had a rock he was leaning against, and he was about 10 feet from me. I heard a thump sound, and I looked over at Jim. I yelled at him to take cover. That's when he turned around, and I could see the mortar. He was hit in the stomach just under the body armor by a round. Part of it was sticking out. I could see the terror in his eyes. He ended up all over me, but his body armor saved my life by containing most of the shrapnel. When we were back in the States, Jim's mom found me and wanted to talk. All she had been told by the Army was that her son died in combat in Iraq. Nothing else. She said, "Only I have one question for you. Did my son die bravely?" A tear fell down my cheek as I answered, "Yes. Yes, he did." I explained to her how he had saved my life, and he had died protecting me. I had too many demons, and it got to me. I couldn't shake her. I never thought people would understand me, so I never looked for help. Too proud, I guess. 6 months later, I took my own life.
We've been in the Persian Gulf for the last 2 months, standing by on our ship, mostly being a visual deterrent to the enemy and doing a lot of embargo stuff. Many episodes of general quarters and donning our masks took place. I was going about my everyday job when I was told the chaplain wanted to talk to me. I really didn't even think about it, what it could be about. I just headed up to his quarters and knocked on his door. He wanted to tell me that my mom had just passed away. I knew she had been struggling with MS for many years now, but I never expected this. I had just seen her the last time I was back there, about 4 months ago, and she seemed fine. They told me that the Red Cross had been contacted and things were getting set up for me to head home. They wanted me to get my things ready and told me that the helo would be taking me into a base with an airstrip. The military really does try to do everything it can to get you home in a situation like this. They never really did say where we were headed, but I didn't really ask either. I was too stuck on my thoughts about my mom and what she meant to me. We had been in the air for about 30 minutes now, and we were somewhere over land. I turned my head to look out from the other side, and that's when I saw a streak coming at us. It was a missile. And before I could even say anything, it hit. I was thrown out, and the web belt that was holding me in was severed. I was falling, and my body was positioned so that I could see the chopper burst into flames and head straight down. I was still falling. Funny how your life spins so fast during a moment like this. Almost like anything significant that has happened to you is being replayed so you can see it. Everything was super slow motion. I was still falling. I was thinking about my family and wondering what they were doing right now. Thinking how my little sister was doing in school, and thinking how my dad's contracting business was doing. I just sent them a letter last week telling them about how we were doing nothing. Talking about the weather and how I really wanted to go fishing with Dad when I got back. Talking about how much I miss home and want to go back and see my friends. I was still falling. So this is what it's like to die. This is what it's like to see the end. Memories kept running through my head. I had my girlfriend back home, and she made me promise I would get back safe. I gave her my word, and I tried real hard to keep it. And I miss her. The sun was shining and not a cloud in the sky. The temperature was decent, and it was about 11 in the morning when I died. I had so much left in me to do, but never got the chance. I hope I go to heaven. I've tried to do good my whole life and be kind to people. I hope I made a good impression on my little sister, and that she would be proud of me. I hope I did good.
So, you can see that there is a person behind each one of the statistics that they throw at you. There's an individual. And an individual who went in for any number of reasons, be it personal and probably unselfish. So when you see pictures of the planes coming back filled with caskets draped with the American flag, you can understand that there's stories that a person had, an identity, and a family on both sides of the world. The saying is true that all gave some and some gave all, and taking the political shit out of the discussion, you can see that not a single person went in because of who the president was.
Thanks, Ron, for listening and helping us out. You were such an inspiration to all of us. We're grateful for that. Hear, hear.
Thanks, guys. I think it's good for all of us to talk about these things. You always know where to find me, right here, at the Tanker Bay Bar. I might have planted a seed deep down, but it was the choice of each individual for you to make. I saw some bad things, so did you. But it'll never let me stop believing in this great country. These guys came back with experiences that most people could never dream of, and I'm glad to help them tell their stories. I think it's good for us to hear it, understand, and to listen. So, thanks for coming out to the bar tonight. Hope you take something with you. Please, don't forget.